In this episode, we talk about the flood situation in Punjab. We also talk about the government of Gujarat purchasing 2 underwater remotely operated vehicles. But we begin today by talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jingping. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. When leaders of 2 countries sit across a table, their discussions can carry major implications for the millions of people they represent. And this, of course, is especially true for India and China, which together account for nearly 1/3 of the world's population and were until recently locked in a border standoff. Now to sit across from President Xi Jinping over the weekend, PM Modi travelled to Tianjin for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, his first visit to China in 7 years. During this visit, he held an hour-long meeting with the Chinese president, where both of them, for a change, spoke of partnership rather than rivalry. In fact, the mood was more conciliatory, and the talks touched upon border peace, strategic autonomy, and cooperation in global trade. Now, to understand the significance of this meet, my colleague Ichha Sharma spoke to the Indian Express's Diplomatic Affairs editor Shubhajit Roy, who joined her on a call from Tianjin.
Shubhajit, could you start by talking about why was this visit so significant in the current moment of India-China relations?
Well, Ichha, what happened was, after 5.5 years of the border standoff, the, disengagement took place in October last year. And Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jingping, they had met in Russia on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. And since then, they essentially sort of took the call that, they should move towards normalizing the relationship. Also, if there is peace on the border, then they can move on the bilateral relationship. I think 10 months down the line, the assessment by the Indian side has been that the border has been quiet for the last 10 months. So they can now move towards the sort of normalizing or stabilizing the relationship. So as of now, they have started the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. They have also started issuing tourist visas for Chinese nationals. And now there was a decision to restart the direct flights between India and China, which was disrupted in 2020, first due to the pandemic, and then because of the border standoff, that never came back. So from all that perspective, 10 months after the disengagement process has been done, this is a very important visit where Prime Minister Modi, he visited China after 7 years. He visited in 2018 last, 21st meeting, but probably one of the most consequential meetings with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. And in that, they sort of discussed and came out with the framing that India and China are not rivals, but development partners. So that is the significance of this particular visit and the meeting between Indian and Chinese leaders.
Right, and as you mentioned, both official readouts of the meeting use the phrase that India and China are partners, not rivals. So how important is this new framing for both the countries?
Well, we have to remember that, the two sides still have 50,000, 60,000 troops along the India-China border. So more than 100,000 troops are stationed, deployed for the last 5.5 years. So it's not that the border standoff is over, but to frame it as a partner and not a rival is new and noteworthy. And I asked the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri at the press conference.
Foreign Secretary Shubhajit Roy here from Indian Express. In the readout, in the Indian statement, I see that, it's been framed that India and China are not rivals, but partners. How do you square this with the fact and the ground reality that more than 50,000 troops from Indian side and another 50,000 are still deployed and stationed at the India-China border?
So his response, and I was sort of paraphrasing it, was that essentially this is what the two leaders aspire it to be, while the ground reality remains And but there has been movement on the border, essentially indicating to the disengagement process and these no fresh incidents along the border, and the border has been quiet. So I think that is what is the most important thing in this particular meeting.
And Shubhajit, India stressed that both countries should pursue strategic autonomy and should not be seen through the lens of a third country. So talk about what does India mean by strategic autonomy in this context?
So if you see, India has always had problems with China because of Pakistan, and China has had problems with India because of India's relationship with the US. So I think the point that both leaders and both sides are trying to make is that let's deal with each other as on bilateral relationship and not see it through a third country lens. So I think that is very important, given the fact that, we just had Operation Sindoor a few months ago, where India and Pakistan had a military confrontation under Operation Sindoor, and where Chinese weapons were used by Pakistan against India. And also Indian military officials have publicly said that how China provided live intelligence to Pakistan. So in that context, I think for India and China to acknowledge, and especially India to acknowledge, that they should not see each other through the third country lens is a very important framing, where India is sort of moving past the fact that Pakistan has been what they call an all-weather friend of China, or China is an all-weather friend of Pakistan. So I think from that context, India's this kind of framing is extremely important, and we'll have to see how this plays out.
Right, and given the current situation, how does this positioning affect this triangular equation between India, China, and the US?
Well, India-US relationship, as you know, Ichha, is facing a stress test, a strained relationship because of the Trump administration's approach towards India, where it has imposed 50% tariffs, which includes 25% for buying Russian oil. So it is at a very low point right now. So in that context, I think this particular, meeting holds significance, although this particular meeting predates the Trump administration's moves. But having said that, this has complicated India's position, India's situation, because India had really invested in the India-US relationship over the last 20, 25 years. The same US administrations had, invested into the relationship, including Trump's first term, and in fact, early months of the Trump administration itself. But now that it has gone south, India-China relationship is, I would say that the repair of the relationship is important, but I think one should not see it from a zero-sum game from the India-US relationship is reinforcing or impacting the India-China relationship. But definitely one thing that India is expressing its strategic autonomy in having relationships with countries it competes or collaborates or cooperates.
Right, and there have been growing discussions on fair trade and also resuming direct flights, as you mentioned earlier. So could you highlight the main economic takeaways from the meeting?
Well, the two sides have decided to restart the direct flights. Apart from that, China is very keen in developing and expanding and broadening its trade and investment relationships with India. It feels that it has missed out on the opportunities that Indian economy offers in the last 5.5 years, because India blocked out the Chinese mobile app. It has not let China to invest in India, and that also tightened the restrictions on Chinese companies. There have been a lot of investigations in Chinese companies. So in all that context, China is sort of keen that it is able to move forward in the relationship and gain the access to the Indian investment market.
And next, we turn our attention to Punjab, which has been hit by massive floods that have impacted over 1,000 villages in the state. Currently, the Army, Border Security Force, Indian Air Force and the National Disaster Response Force are carrying out evacuations and delivering relief supplies to those affected while schools and colleges remain closed. Now, it's key to note that last month, the state recorded over 253 millimeter of rainfall, which was 74% above the normal and the highest in 25 years.
Punjab had started witnessing these flood-like conditions from the first week of August only.
That's the Indian Express's Raakhi Jagga, who has been reporting on the floods for the paper.
That started in the Fazilka district because there was heavy rainfall on 31st July and 1st August. And because of that, more than 24 villages, they got deluged and the water was not drained out. So that was just start of the floods, I can say.
But she says that despite this, the government never took these conditions seriously, and it was only on the 20th of the last month that things really started deteriorating.
When a couple of heavy rainfalls happened in the plains, and also that was added by heavy rainfall in the hills as well. And from 27 onwards, the situation started deteriorating when the Pong Dam, which is built on the Beas River, and the Ranjit Sagar Dam, which is built on the Ravi River, they reached the danger mark. And excess releases happened from those dams, and it resulted in deluging of Pathankot and Gurdaspur areas. They are the worst affected districts as of now, and followed by Amritsar as well. Then comes more than 100 villages of Fazilka, Firozpur. Hoshiarpur also has more than 100 affected villages. Kapurthala, Jalandhar. So I can't say that the condition has improved. Rather, the heavy rainfall is happening every day. Even Monday as well, it rained heavily in a large part of Punjab. And the number of villages which are under flood, they are increasing every day.
And Rakhi, we understand that right now around 12 districts are severely affected. So can you talk about just how many casualties and injuries have been reported so far due to these floods?
Yeah, according to the flood bulletin, which was released on Monday morning, 29 persons so far have died. And it's not that they have drowned or so. Majority of them, they died because they were staying in the flood affected villages, or because of the incessant rainfalls, the roof collapsed, and people living in that house, they died or they got injured. And 3 persons in Pathankot, they are missing, and there is a strong possibility that they have been drowned. And that is a figure which they gave on Monday morning. But after that, in the afternoon, we heard that 1 person got drowned in Gurdaspur, and one child, 8-year-old child, he died in Ludhiana because the roof collapsed. And one 60-year-old lady, she died in Sangru. Again, the roof collapsed because of continuous rainfall. So if we combine these figures, so it will come out to be 32 deaths and 3 persons. They are still missing. We can't count them in the list of dead because the bodies haven't been recovered.
And Rakhi, tell us about the rescue operations and the evacuation drives. How many people have been evacuated till now? And what kind of rescue operations can be seen on the ground right now?
So they have deployed 20 teams of NDRF, and 10 columns of army have been employed, and 8 columns of army, they are on standby. 30 to 35 choppers have been deployed. 1 state chopper was deployed, briefly was deployed. That state chopper was of the Punjab Chief Minister, Bhagwant Mann, but that was deployed only for a day or two. And BSF has also been deployed on the ground level. There are a total of 114 boats to rescue people from the flooded villages. And so far, the floods have affected 1,044 villages to be precise. And as per the figures of the state government, more than 2.5 lakh people, they have been affected because of the floods. But if we see the rescue figures, people who have been rescued, they are 15,688. These are the figures given by the government of Punjab themselves in the Monday morning's flood bulletin. And they have set up 129 relief camps. And in those relief camps, as per the figures of the Punjab government, 7,144 flood victims, they are staying in these camps. So largely villagers, they are either staying at their relatives' places, or a number of them are still staying put in their houses only, either on the rooftops or on the ground floor only if the water level is tolerable, or in many villages, the water is around the village or within the lanes of the village. It's not inside the houses, and sometimes it's on the ground floor and not on the first floor. And so people have largely not vacated the villages 100%.
Yeah, and besides this, you write that the Aam Aadmi Party workers are also on the ground providing essential supplies, including sanitary pads for women. And there are NGOs which are also working on the ground. And even the local people have been cooking langar for those affected. And even green fodder is being distributed to the animals.
Yeah. There is a lot of inherent thing in Punjab that they do seva, langar seva. I mean, that is in our blood only in Punjab. And not only people from all walks of life, even the Punjabi film stars, the actors, they are also reaching out to people like Diljit Dosanjh's foundation, Satinder Sartaaj, his foundation. Jasbir Jassi, he's a singer. He himself is in the Gurdaspur area. He belongs to that area. So he himself is roaming around in that area, in a Janala area. He's reaching out to the villagers and asking them of any help. And rather, interacted with the media. And then he said that he's talking to a lot of Bollywood people also to help out the Punjab people in this hour of crisis. There are so many NGOs, we can't name one. And all of them are reaching out to people either with a cooked langar or with a dry ration fodder. And whosoever, whatever they can contribute, people are contributing. As I mentioned that in the first week of August, 24 villages, they got deluged in a bohar. Even those villages are helping out the Fazilka flooded villages, as they said that our trouble is not that much as is of the villages who are stuck in the flood water. And not only this, people from the villages from Haryana, they are also helping out. They are also collecting ration. We have interacted with the villagers from Jind and even Hisar, and they said that they are collecting relief, and they'll be reaching out to Punjab farmers soon, and even the Rajasthan farmers. The nearby districts, Hanumangarh, Ganganagar, they are also, because they are very near to Fazilka and Firozpur, and they said they'll be reaching out.
And Rakhi, we know that agriculture is central to Punjab. It is often referred to as the breadbasket of India. So can you tell us how have the floods affected the farmers and their crops in the state?
Yeah, on Sunday, Additional Chief Secretary Anurag Verma, he had visited Fazilka and Firozpur districts' flood-affected villages, and there he himself gave this statement that more than 3 lakh acres of agricultural land that has been affected due to the floods. So that's a huge area which has been affected, and largely, on this land, paddy was grown. And paddy was about to be harvested by September end. So you can say that the crop of the season has gone. We are apprehending it's 100% loss. And the area where the water can recede within 1 week, so there are hopes that, some percentage damage and the crop may get a lesser yield and can be saved. But that all can be determined once the water recedes completely, and after that, the government has stated that they'll be doing a special Girdabri, that is a crop assessment, and accordingly that they said that they'll be compensating the farmers. Yes, and Bhagwant Mann had also said that he wants to pay to the farmers at the rate of 50,000 per acre compensation, and that's why he said that he had requested the Prime Minister to revise the norms of State Disaster Relief Fund, and accordingly if the fund is increased, so he can pay the farmers more.
And Rakhi, right now, CM Bhagwant Mann has also written to PM Modi asking him to increase the disaster relief funds and also clear the pending dues of the state, which he says amounts to 60,000 crores. So, can you talk a bit about the political reactions that these floods have prompted?
Like Bhagwant Mann, like Aam Aadmi Party, they are training their guns towards center only and asking them for funds. And at the same time, Punjab BJP was the first one to write to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi seeking a relief package. Sukhbir Badal has also written, and likewise Congress leader of opposition, they have also written. Sukhbir Badal, who is the president of Shiromani Akali Dal, he said that he himself has toured, and yes, he has toured extensively throughout the state, and he is raising allegations on the ruling Aam Aadmi Party and saying that it's a man-made disaster, that the Aam Aadmi Party people, they were never serious about the flood preparations and about cleaning of the drains and strengthening the embankments and all. That's why he's training the guns on the state. And at the same time, he said that they are not even announcing any adequate relief, and they are not even spending out funds for the people. Rather, the voluntary organizations are reaching out to people. And his party is also reaching out to people with the relief. At the same time, BJP is also blaming Aam Aadmi Party for the failure, because in 2023 also the floods have happened and they are saying that they haven't learned any lessons. Even in the field, if we go, people are also blaming Aam Aadmi Party that the damage done on the roads, on the bridges in 2023 floods, that was not repaired adequately, and they are saying that that is also another reason that these floods have occurred and they have suffered major losses. And Congress again targeting on Aam Aadmi Party.
And in the end, we talk about a pilot project initiated by the government of Gujarat. Back in July, when the Mujpur Gambhira bridge in Gujarat collapsed, killing 22 people, a robotic vehicle was deployed to search the murky depths of the Mahisagar River during the rescue operation. Since then, the Gujarat government has purchased 2 state-of-the-art remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, and assigned them to the police in Vadodara and Rajkot. Bought at the cost of rupees 2.8 crores as a pilot project, a third ROV is also expected for the Ahmedabad Fire Service next month. To understand how these ROVs can assist in deep water disasters and solving crime, we speak to the Indian Express's Brendan Dabhi. Brendan, these are deep trekker remotely operated vehicles we are talking about. Tell us, how exactly do they work?
So the deep trekker underwater remotely operated vehicle is an assistant that helps rescuers, that helps the police to search for things that are underwater. Mostly it helps in freshwater situations, especially in rivers and lakes, and also during flooding. So it helps the police, it helps the fire department, it helps people who are working in disaster situations. So this particular vehicle that we are talking about, it can conduct search and evidence recovery at a depth of 200 meters. Its salient points, features include an ultra high definition 4K camera and a powerful light of 2000 lumens that can work in, deep water situations and in night operations. It uses sonar technology to look for whatever is being searched for underwater. It can be dead bodies, it can be evidence, it can be mapping an underwater situation, or it can be used for looking for damage to underwater structures. It also has a grabber arm that can lift and remove weights up to 100 kgs.
Right. And Brendan, could you talk about the kind of situations in which these ROVs have been used before?
Yes. So there have been several instances that we have quoted wherein in 2019 there was a person that was murdered and his body dumped into the river. This deep trekker had been used to locate the crime scene. While the body was not found at that time, they did find a rock and the rope to which the body had been tied. So it has helped in that way. And in another case, which is a national case basically, an army aviation helicopter had crashed in the Ranjit Sagar Dam in the Ravi River in Jammu in 2021. While the body of one of the pilots had been recovered immediately, it had taken a lot of time to recover the body of the other pilot. This ROV had been used to recover that body from about 75 to 80 feet of water from the river. Further, these ROVs have also been used in previous disasters in Gujarat, like the Morbi Bridge disaster, in the Harni Lake boat disaster. So whether or not there were results, they had been requisitioned.
And how do we see this particular technology helping the Gujarat police in the long run?
So, as I said before, this is not just for the Gujarat police, right? Like the NDRF, the SDRF, the fire department, it could be the reserve police, it could also be the army and the defense forces who conduct such humanitarian and disaster relief operations. But apart from that, it can be used in crime scene investigations which are underwater. And this corporation has also helped the railways at one time, where they have helped check the pillars of river bridges. So there are a few bridges still in Gujarat which were built during the British era. So this ROV has also been used to check their pillars, to check whether there is infrastructural damage and if they need to be shored up or if repair works have to be carried out. One of the major uses of this was also dead body retrieval, and this may be helpful in some of the major rivers of Gujarat like the Sabarmati, Mahi, the Tapi, the Narmada Canal, all of these. For example, just earlier this year, the Sabarmati was drained for a cleanup operation. So at that time, there were several pools of water. One child had drowned in one such pool of water that had remained in the river, on the riverbed basically. And since it was very deep, the fire department had been unable to recover the body. So the fire department sought help of this company, and they came in, they conducted a grid pattern search with sonar, and they successfully found and recovered the body of the 13-year-old boy from 12 feet of water. Also, there have been several instances where material evidence in criminal cases like guns and other weapons may be thrown into water bodies. So usually it is difficult in murky waters to find such evidence. This ROV can be helpful for that use as well.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Ichha Sharma, Shashank Bhargava and me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.